Good morning, good morning. It's Sunday, May 3rd, 2020. Oh, I'm a little messed up. I'm messed up. Let me tell you why I'm messed up. I'm down to my last assignment, and I've been trying to finish it for the last few days, and I keep getting distraction. And so I thought I would have it done yesterday, but I've been praying and praying and praying because it's like it wasn't coming together. The topics were good. I thought I was going to talk about mentorship out of the book of Ruth. And I had two titles. So I'm like, is this two sermons, God? Or, who are we focusing on, Ruth or Naomi? And one of the sermon topics was Ruth, who is your Naomi? And the other topic was Naomi, who is your Ruth? And so when I said I was going to focus on mentorship, I was thinking more of Ruth, who are you following? And she's following Naomi, her mother-in-law, or mother-in-law, and Naomi is mentoring Ruth along the journey. But this morning, I was awakened. This morning, I was laying in bed because God said, Evon, I don't want you to focus on that. I don't want you to focus on mentorship. Because, if you know the book of Ruth is, and it can be, a love story. In the end, Ruth gets her Boaz. But it's the beginning of the story God wants me to deal with. The beginning, not the end, not the love story, not the getting your Boaz, women that are single out there, or men that are single out there wanting that loved one or that spouse or mate or whatever. No. God told me to focus on the losses and the grief. And he told me I may not have birthed my play son, Walter White Jr., who was shot and killed last March 23rd, 2019. But since the age of 8, him and my son, Christopher, were raised together, whether they spend the night here or they spend the night at Walter's parents' home. And I've never had to preach a sermon on death and loss. I've written about death several times at Houston Community College about two of my cousins, two sisters that both lost their lives due to lupus. And I believe one had lupus and ended up with a stroke the day that she was trying to move into her new apartment. But, and they died 10 years apart, two sisters. And I remember at Houston Community College, my professor, I was doing my pre-hygiene, dental hygiene prerequisites. And I remember the professor saying, I need to talk to you after class. And I remember the lights being off in the class, but we had windows, so the sun was shining in. And I remember going up to her desk when all the students left, and she looked at me and she said, Evon, I had written about death of those two cousins. And she said, Evon, the power of the pen in your hand is dangerous. She said, baby, keep on writing because you can write. And God got a lot inside of you that need to come out through the pen and paper. So as I get prepared to preach this sermon on Thursday to my classmates, my final assignment, my last day of class for the spring semester, he wants me to talk about loss and grief. And I've lost a lot of people, and I grieve a lot. But it was nothing like the grief of my play son, Walter White, being shot and killed. That was a sudden death. It was during the week of the Deer Park fires. So I was very sick that week. I ended up with 26 symptoms and knocked off my feet that Friday night. I had to go to the doctor 4 times. I had to get 8 injections. I was so sick. And I don't turn my phone off often, but I did that day, that Friday night, the 22nd. And I remember in the night opening my eyes and seeing my phone blinking just different times, but I was so tired and I was so sick. And people was on Messenger trying to get in touch with me and trying to find my son, Chris. So about 8 to 9 o'clock, Saturday, March 23rd, is when, I finally found out that Walter was shot and killed and he didn't make it. And I remember my heart shattering like glass on the floor. I remember the little tiny diamonds. It was just a lot of diamonds. And I prayed to God and I cried. And I don't even think I've cried like this in a while because I thought I had myself together. Till I heard God this morning say, you're going to talk about loss and grief, and you're going to talk about the death of Walter, and you're going to talk about the pain that you felt the past year. Because there's just some things you just got to go through alone with you and God. People can't help you. They can comfort you with their words. They can pray for you. They can be there for you, but not like God can in some things. So I'm going to be talking about losses and grief. And Naomi lost her husband and 2 sons. And she had her 2 daughter-in-laws, and she told Oprah to go home. Well, she told them both to go home, but Oprah decided to go home. But Ruth, she decided to follow her mother-in-law. She followed her all the way back to her country. She took on her God. She stayed with her mother-in-law. She took care of her mother-in-law. But, bottom line, they both had losses. All 3 of them did, a mother and 2 sons, 2 wives, lost 2 husbands. And then Naomi lost her husband. So 3 people lost their husband. It's a lot. So I'm going to get over the crying, and I'm going to go back in here and I'm going to write again. And everything I wrote up until this point is null and void. And I'm going to talk about losses. I'm going to talk about grief. And I'm going to preach my tail off on Thursday. And I'm going to get through the crying. I'm going to get through the pain. And I'm going to get through the hurt. And I know that God is with us. And I know that there's appointed one son of man to die. And after that is the judgment. But the book of Ruth, let's do this. I almost went to Sarah. When Sarah laughed at God, she laughed before Abraham laughed. And about this time next year, she would be pregnant with Isaac. Yeah, Naomi laughed. Yeah, not Naomi, Sarah laughed. Sarah laughed at God, but I don't, I was going to preach about, this was like the last 2 days, has God promised you something in a year and you laughed? Have God promised you anything and you laughed at God? But that's not going to be the message. So I got to go in here and see what the title's going to be for Thursday. We're going to talk about losses and grief. And then there's a lot of people have lost a lot, with the closure of their job or being laid off or losing their job or not having funds right now, not having food, trying to take care of family and, work from home and teach kids. Some of the schooling that these kids is new. It's new. It's not even stuff that I understand. And I'm working on a double master's degree right now. But I'm going to talk about losses and grief. So pray for me as I go in here and prepare this last sermon and last assignment and get through these 2 days of school this coming week. And then take a 2-week break. And then I'll be in school for the summer. I only have 6 classes left. 14 semester hours left, and I should be graduating next May 2021. I'm going full force, but it's not going to be easy. It's going to be heavy loads. I got to get into internships and practicums and finish up these courses. So pray for me. Love you. God bless you. Thank you, Tahita, for telling me to go capture the moment while I'm crying and have it all down so I can make my notes. But God bless y'all. Love you. Bye-bye. It's Pastor Evon Boykins. Bye.